Hello everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Laura here for Free Practice Friday. I know I've been kind of philosophical lately, not focusing so much on the movements. So I wanted to continue to be philosophical, but maybe try to explain where I'm coming from with this. These videos are often somewhat spontaneous in that I don't have a script that I write out when I record them, and sometimes I just go with the flow. So last week I was out of town and was recording outside of the place that I was staying, and so I just had to work with what I had. So that I haven't intentionally been being philosophical, but it's just kind of led that direction, and I'm now realizing part of what that is that Qigong, although there are physical movements with it, the physical is kind of the least important part of it. So Qigong is made up of three aspects. There's the physical, the emotional piece of things, or the breath, and then the meditative or intention piece of things. So that's it kind of corresponds with body, mind, and spirit, right? So we've got body as kind of the most grounded, earthly aspect of things. So that's the physical. And then we've got the breath, which helps to control the emotions. And of course, emotions and our mind are related, right? You think something, you experience something, and you have certain emotions with that. And then the meditative or the spiritual aspect is kind of the more, the highest kind of heavenly aspect of things. So, it's not that one is necessarily better than the other, but we've got the physical more grounded, the spiritual up here, and then the emotional in the middle in terms of maybe the weight of the energy that goes with them. And a lot of people look at Qigong or teach Qigong or learn Qigong, and they teach it as or learn it as a set of physical movements, which is great. I have some drop-in classes that I teach, and because I don't teach, there's things in those classes that I don't teach because it takes a little bit longer for people to get used to, and it's better, I've found, to do that in a kind of longer chunk. So I do this 3-hour intro to teach those skills, but in the drop-in classes, people haven't taken that intro. And so, we do different movements. We do Phoenix Ascends the Flames, and we have this beautiful flowing, I always feel like I'm flying when I do this, motion that I've come to think of really as a physical mantra. If you're the kind of person who does sitting meditation and you use a mantra either in your head or out loud, and you chant, for example, Om, then that's one way to have a mantra. But these physical movements, I've really just found there's something to focus on, there's something for the mind to focus on, and it becomes a mantra of sorts. So doing these movements can be really relaxing, and people are relaxed by the end of class. I think they feel good. They've enjoyed themselves. They've maybe switched out of the monkey mind and the chatter that's going on, and for example, maybe the stress that they felt when they came into class because they were at work or something stressful happened during the day. So this really helps to calm their nervous system and move them in from fight or flight into the rest and restore mode, rest and digest. It's called a few different things. So we've got fight or flight, which is the sympathetic nervous system, or begins with S, so I think of it as the stress nervous system, and then rest and digest, or the parasympathetic, the peaceful nervous system. So we go from stress into peace. And the movements, they can help do that. Any sort of movement is really great to get rid of stress, to bring yourself more into your body. But that's only one aspect of Qigong. So there are some people who say that actually only accounts for 10% of the benefit that you get from Qigong. And so what about the other 90%? In this same school of thought, another 30% is the breath. So in most of the movements, we also have a we often coordinate the breath. Even if we don't coordinate the breath, we're at least still breathing. So we breathe in, let the arms float up, and then breathe out and let them float down. And this I also teach in the drop-in classes, so you don't have to come to my special intro to learn that. So we're breathing in, the arms float up, and then breathing out and letting them float down. So the breath regulates the emotion. You often see that emotion is expressed in the breath, right? So if somebody's sad, they're crying and they might be sobbing. And if you actually pretend to cry for a little while, you'll actually start to kind of feel like crying. So it actually has a physical effect on our body when we're faking it, which I think is probably part of the reason that fake it till you make it works so well. Similarly, you've got, when somebody is frustrated, you might see them, right? They're maybe standing in line somewhere, they don't want to be waiting, and so they're standing there and they keep sighing, and you can kind of tell from their breath, from their sigh, that they're frustrated. Or you think of a teenager, right? A teenager doesn't want to listen to their parents, and they just get that kind of attitude. And so, we can tell what someone's feeling by the way they breathe. Similarly, we can, conversely, we can take that breath and we can change our mood with it. And so that's why if someone comes into class, or maybe a better example, this is more everyday life, somebody's very upset about something, right? And they're anxious and they're breathing very quickly, right? And you can say to them, okay, take a deep breath, slow the breath down. And they take a deep breath and they blow it out over a long period of time. They take another one, they slow things down even more. And you'll see a change in their demeanor, that they go from being uptight and tense to just everything kind of relaxes. And, they might not feel perfect at that point, but there's a difference. So we can use our breath to change our emotional state. As part of that, and this is what I wanted to talk about today, we won't really get into the intention or the spirit part of Qigong today. But with the breath, there are different ways of breathing. If you've done yoga, you know that there are all sorts of different kinds of breathing. You can breathe in and out gently, you can breathe forcefully, you can breathe in and out through the nose, you can use your mouth for some of it, you can actually make sounds when you're breathing, and some of this comes into Qigong too. But the piece that I want to talk about is the difference between chest breathing and belly or abdominal breathing. So if I turn sideways, you might be able to see, when we're anxious or nervous, we tend to breathe more into our chest. So you'll see someone's chest, they're breathing in and out. Right, so you can feel like you're breathing deeply, but you're just breathing into your chest. And there are receptors in your lungs, in your upper lungs, that when you're breathing just into your chest, in fact, I feel a little bit lightheaded and a little bit anxious just from doing those couple of breaths. They're set to put you into fight or flight mode, to trigger fight or flight mode. If you breathe into your belly, and of course your lungs don't go down this far, but what happens is that your lungs, if you fill up your lungs more deeply, lower into the lungs, it has to push the diaphragm out of the way, and the diaphragm pushes the organs out of the way, and so your belly expands a little bit. So this is a little bit harder to see on camera, but your belly will expand just a little bit. So you can just barely see. Right, so it's more this area that's going in and out. And it's not that the chest isn't moving at all, but when you're breathing deeper into your lungs, first of all, you're filling up more capacity, which means you're getting more oxygen into your body. And you are triggering, there's actually receptors in your lower lungs that trigger the parasympathetic or peaceful or rest and digest mode. And this helps to calm us down. So when we tell someone to breathe deep, it's not just a long breath that we want, but we actually want to see if we can trigger them to breathe more into their lower lungs, to expand their abdomen a little bit. Now, of course, also, the front of your body expands, but your lungs go from front to back. And so you can practice expanding actually the back of your lungs too. And it's really interesting when you start playing around with that. I was taught it's kind of like having an inner tube around your body, right? So it's not just the front that's expanding, but it's also the back. And I don't know if I can demonstrate that. I don't think you probably can't see my back moving. It moves very little, but it does, you can kind of feel it expanding back there. So, and actually that's part of the intention. So if you think about breathing and, once you get used to the belly breath, if you start breathing and thinking more about stopping it from expanding in the front and having it expand in the back, then you can experience that too. So I think I've talked about belly breathing before, and about if you're struggling with it, you can lie down on the floor or in a bed on the ground and put a book or a yoga block or something on your abdomen. And then you can actually physically see it moving up and down. It'll just be a little bit initially. So you can, you have a visual context there. The other thing to do is when you exhale, to pull your abdomen in just a little bit. We walk around a lot pulling our stomachs in. That's kind of a societal thing. You should have flat abs. But if you make an effort, try to show this again. My shirt's kind of floppy. But when you breathe in and then breathe out and actually pull your stomach in and then just relax it for the inhale. And pull it back in. You can kind of see that there. So that can get you a little more used to engaging the lower part of your abdomen. And as you do that, I guess maybe the diaphragm, everything in there gets used to moving around, and the diaphragm that is more comfortable, pushing down a little bit, and you can actually fill up those lower lungs. So that's something to play around with. And I teach abdominal breathing sometimes in my classes and not other times. I've trained with a few different people, and some of them say breathing is really important, and other ones say just make sure you're breathing. It doesn't matter how you're breathing. And I guess maybe consider breathing a slightly more advanced skill. The other thing with breathing, and maybe I'll go into this a little more next week, is so we talked about in yoga, in the yogic tradition, there's inhales through the nose, through the mouth. There's different ways of doing it, and so when you're exhaling, think about dropping your jaw. I'm set up to be a little further away from the camera, but so when you inhale, and then when you exhale, open your mouth and drop the jaw. This helps to relax the vagus nerve, which is a nerve that runs down your spine through the middle of your body, and it's kind of connected with everything in your body, and it's implicated in switching between sympathetic and parasympathetic back and forth. And so anything that we can do to relax the vagus nerve, including relaxing the jaw, will help with switching us into parasympathetic nervous system. I think maybe I'll talk more about the vagus nerve next week. But there are different, so we not only just breathe out through the mouth, but we do a gentle ha sound. So kind of like we're fogging up a mirror, we go, and that vocalization, I think, can also help to to relax the vagus nerve. The reason that I'll have to look that up, but the reason that that's one of my suspicions is that gargling and singing are also really good for the vagus nerve. So if you're the kind of person who cranks the radio up in the car and sings at the top of your lungs, that's really good for you, and there might be a reason that you enjoy doing it. So so going back to the exhaling through your mouth, it can be really awkward, a really awkward feeling. We're trained to don't be a mouth breather. It feels strange to open your mouth while you're breathing. Of course, you can always close your mouth to swallow your saliva if you need to. But practice breathing out through your mouth, and just breathe in and breathe out with a gentle ha. It can be as long as you want it to. My exhale is much longer than my inhale. Play around with it. It probably won't become automatic. You have to remind yourself to do it. But for me, since I'm somebody who clenches my jaw a lot, it's really helpful in loosening up my jaw. You don't want to, I can still clench my jaw and keep my mouth open, but that's not what we're going for. We don't want to have our jaw clenched and, right? We're not hissing out. We're not, whatever that sound was. I don't even know what that was through clenched teeth. We're not even blowing out birthday candles, right? We're not pursing our lips because there's a little bit of pressure then still in there. And I think the point of this is that we just let out as much air as possible. And when we're doing that, right, because emotions are expressed in the breath, when we've done Qigong and we've stirred things up a little bit, and we've got some emotions that haven't been released in the past, they've been stuck in our body, but we do Qigong and we move the energy around and it releases something, we want to get that out. Like it's like an exhaust pipe. We're going to get all the gunk out of the body. So something to try and play around with it. Qigong, like I said, is not just physical. It also has the mind and spirit pieces of things. This was the mind aspect of it, or the emotional aspect of it, which is expressed in the breath. And next week I will make a note that we talk a little bit more about the vagus nerve. I'll see you guys later.